Welcome to The Subject is Moot, where everything we discuss is debatable. I am Dom, and across from me is
Mike.
And a special thanks to Vinny and Quiz, the producers of the podcast. We want to hear from you, so write in your opinion, comments, or topics you want us to talk about to thesubjectismoot@yahoo.com, and we will bring them up during future shows. And make sure you stay to the end of the show to find out our artist of the podcast, as well as the answers to our trivia questions. So, Mike, talk to me. How you doing?
Merry, holly, and jolly.
That's good.
It's Christmas time, my friend.
It is. It's definitely a great time of year.
My favorite.
We have a great show lined up today, and we need you to be on top of your game because you are Mr. Music.
I appreciate that.
Before we get started, I was editing our last show, okay, the effects of lineup changes that a band goes through. You had asked me what was Kiss's last album that I loved, and I feel like I didn't answer that question. So please ask me that question again.
So, Dom, what was the last Kiss record you loved?
Dynasty. That's it in a nutshell. I think it really was because of...
You sure it wasn't Love Gun?
No, it was definitely Dynasty. It was, and I listen, you know what, if it wasn't for, I think, the great job, because it was, I mean, the song I Was Made for Loving You is, it was...
A hit?
It was all right. It was Paul Stanley's, I guess, attempt to go in disco, but it definitely wasn't because of that. That was probably one of the bigger songs on the album, but to me, 2000 Man, Dirty Livin', Magic Touch, which that was actually Paul Stanley's, but Hard Times and Save Your Love. Those are the songs that really made me pick that album. So Dynasty is the last Kiss album that I truly loved.
I have difficulty myself choosing since I don't like any of them.
Well, then you really wouldn't be struggling like I did.
No.
So your moot point. It's time for your moot point, which is brought to you by Headphone.com. Obsessed music geeks at your service since 1992. They are renowned for honest headphone reviews, fanatical dedicated customer service, and in-depth product evaluations. Headphone.com offers a wide variety of headphone amplifiers. They are located in Montana, USA. Call 1-800-828-8184 for sales assistance, technical questions, or advice. You could also check them out on their website, headphone.com. So, it's time, Mike. Your moot point. You want me to kick it off?
Go for it.
Michael C. from Edison, New Jersey wrote in. I enjoy listening to your podcast and agree with many of your views, but have to express that while Jeff Tate is an exceptional vocalist, Rob Halford, in my opinion, is the best metal singer there ever was and will be. Now, that's a direct quote from Michael C. from Edison. Sounds like I'm reading it, and I am, because I can't memorize everything that everybody's writing in. But Michael C., you know what? That's excellent feedback. We appreciate that. Mike and I actually talk about this all the time. We want people who write in and not only agree with us, we want actually people to disagree.
We love it.
Yeah, we enjoy the back and forth. We want to hear why you disagree with us. And you know what? There are times where, even though I don't think my opinion would change, I think I want to hear, because you know what? Sometimes maybe I don't lean as heavily as I did towards that one. And you bring up points that say, hey, you know what? I kind of like what you're saying, and even though I won't change completely, I respect what other people have to say about it. So, Mike, why don't you chime in there?
Yeah, Rob Halford, I mean, he's a legend. No?
Oh, absolutely.
I was never a huge Priest fan. Obviously, and I'm sure you'll agree, as we said in the past, Jeff Tate, he's our favorite. He's one of the greatest, in my opinion, in his prime, and I always have to put that in there. In his prime, and even probably up until Promised Land, I felt he was personally the best metal singer ever. I recently, in the past few years, went back and started listening to Priest because I just felt like that was an area I never touched with all of the bands I listened to. And I understand what Michael's saying, but I still have to go with Tate, especially during those years in the 80s when Priest was already there. Obviously, they preceded Queensryche. But I don't know. Queen of the Reich, Lady Wore Black. When you listen to those songs, listen to his voice. There's power. I don't know. Jeff Tate. I got to still stick with him. I mean, listen, I know Painkiller. I love Painkiller. It's a great song, great record. My favorite Priest album was probably Painkiller and maybe, I don't know. It's a tough one. I think Painkiller is my favorite.
I don't know if I have a favorite, but I do know that I'm not changing my point just because Mike C. from Edison, New Jersey wrote in. And you know what, Mike C., we respect you completely. But, we want to hear more of you out there who disagree. But I'm not changing my opinion. To me, Jeff Tate is and pretty much, I think, for me, will always be the best metal singer. And right after that is DC Cooper. But I'm not changing it for anything. I was not a Judas Priest fan growing up. I think I listen to him more probably now than I did when I was younger, only because, I'm branching out and trying to listen to more bands that I didn't listen to growing up. I was stuck with, Kiss and Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Great White, obviously Van Halen, to name just a few. Judas Priest wasn't what I used to listen to when I was younger, although I completely respect Rob Halford's place in the history of vocals, of metal vocals.
He's in the top.
Absolutely.
Screaming for Vengeance is another record that I absolutely love. I recommend that to you personally, and if you want to hear Halford in his prime.
Oh, I've heard it.
The whole record?
I probably did.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
That's one of my personal favorites. I know people love British Steel, Sin After Sin. Those are all really, again, in his prime, in their prime, the whole band, and they were firing on all cylinders, songwriting-wise. And I understand Michael C's point, and I feel the same way as you. I'll probably never change my mind about
Nope.
Jeff Tate.
If I change my mind about Jeff Tate, it's going to be put DC Cooper first. But even then, I won't.
Right, yeah, me neither.
I won't. I mean, I respect DC. You know how I feel about DC Cooper. That solo album is one of the top albums of my favorite albums.
Yeah, you go back and listen to, I think, everything from Queensryche self-titled EP to Empire. That stretch right there, song-wise and vocally, is as good as it gets in the metal world, by far.
Well, Mike C., thank you very much.
Please continue to listen, even though we don't agree with you. Next is Frank from Millbourne, Pennsylvania. He wrote in, I'm a diehard Journey fan, but cannot listen to any of their albums post Steve Perry. Their attempt to replace Perry with Arnold Pineda was a weak attempt of holding on to the past and wanting what they can't have. What do you think about that?
Frank, let it out. You listen. You're a passionate Journey fan, and it's important to stay true to yourself. Don't listen to anybody else. And I kind of actually like the way you stand in your ground. It's good to express yourself. You have nothing to be ashamed of. I understand what you're saying, but if let's say when you drive a fast car, your next car is not going to be a slow car. And when you have a vocalist like Steve Perry, and you replace him with Arnold Pineda, maybe they don't want to let go of what they had, because what they had was so great, And Mike, I know you brought up a great point, and I'll let you explain. But they had a great Steve Perry is another great singer, great vocalist, and you know what? They replaced him with Arnold Pineda, and yeah, maybe they are holding on.
Well, technically, I don't really think Arnold. I mean, without going back onto Wikipedia or anything like that, I don't think he really replaced Perry. He really replaced a guy named Steve Augeri, who was in a band in the 80s in the 90s, I believe, early 90s, called Tall Stories. Really never had much success. Pineda came in later. I don't even think the Journey may have tried to bring in a great singer who's well known in the AOR forums and bands. Obviously, Jeff Scott Soto, who sang for Yngwie and has his own solo career, a great band called Talisman. If you like hard rock, check Talisman out. I think they tried him out too. But I mean, I don't know. I don't know if Journey would have had any success, moving on with anyone that didn't sound like Perry, because the fans, obviously, except for Frank, want to hear Perry. And if Perry can't be there, I guess get a Perry clone. And Pineda really is. There was a record, I think, released a few years ago. It may have even been, believe it or not, a Walmart special edition that came with an extra CD of them re-recording classic Journey tracks with Pineda singing. And I tell you, man, it was tough to tell a difference.
Yeah.
It was really, really difficult to tell a difference. And I think they've proven to themselves that if they want to continue selling out stadiums and not amphitheaters, little theaters, they have to go with someone who's going to, give most of the fans what they want. Maybe not Frank.
Well, let me ask you a question, though. I mean, the Journey fans are holding on, except, I guess, for, Frank. But the Journey fans are holding on. How disappointed were the Van Halen fans when,
Yep. I'll give you a great example.
When Gary Sharon comes in, and there was still Van Halen. I mean, he's singing all of the catalog, the whole catalog, but he just didn't,
yeah.
take it to the next level, and bring it to where I guess you have Roth, and then you have Sammy Hagar come in, and Sammy Hagar just picked up the ball and just he just hit the ground running basically when he comes in, and then you have Gary Sharon. When you have a guy like Arnold Pineda, you know what? The Journey fans are they're still getting a treat.
They're eating it up, and I would too. I would too, and I think you like going back to even what we just talked about Rob Halford. Priest knew when they replaced Halford that they would have to have somebody who was not a dead ringer, but someone who could handle what Halford sang. And Ripper Owens did a great job, and the fans loved it.
Yeah,
he wasn't a dead ringer like maybe Pineda is, but he was close. He was close, and he handled the older songs as they should have been handled. So, hang in there, Frank. Maybe Perry will come back one day. I know they want him to come back if they ever get inducted to the Hall of Fame. So that may be your shot, your only shot.
All right, thanks, Frank. Steve from Colchester, Vermont, has a question for us, Mike. He said basically he asked, which music media, cassette, vinyl, CD, or MP3 do you enjoy listening to, and why?
Why did he leave off our favorite, Tom?
8-track?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, well.
I guess because, I don't know. Maybe he listened to one of the first, I mentioned during my fight, was it The Pilot?
What about 33s?
I guess maybe he listened to, realized I only had the Muppet movie and Dynasty.
Yeah.
Which this is my last favorite Kiss album.
Probably my last too.
Yeah. So yeah, which one do you enjoy listening to?
It's kind of my answer is a bit tricky because I buy CDs. I will never give up buying CDs. I prefer buying CDs.
You may have to one day.
I hope not. But I end up putting them on my iPod because obviously it's much more convenient to carry around an iPod than search high and low for a CD player to walk around with. So it's kind of a combination of CD and an MP3 player. But I'll never stop buying CDs to put onto my MP3 player. So it's both because I still listen to the CDs and a CD player at home. Yes.
For me, it's bottom line is it's an MP3 player. It's my iPod, my iPad, whatever I could. It's a digital format.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
And I know that it's not CD. It's not. I know CD is a digital format, but like you said, I have a turntable. I'm not going to listen to. I have vinyl. I'm not going to put it on. If I want to advance to a track, if I ended with the ease of going from Frank Sinatra to Elvis to Kiss to Def Leppard, to Lawrence Welk or Kenny G, you have that flexibility, and I will never stop buying CDs until they stop producing them. And I like looking at the liner notes and all that. I enjoy holding it, and it's I kind of feel like if anything ever happened to my library, I know you could put it on the cloud and all that fun stuff, all that modern stuff, but I still like a CD. I like plugging into my headphones into a CD player, an amp, into an amp, and then into my headphones. So Steve, my answer is flat out digital format all the way, MP3.
Well, we're also old school now because if you think about it, if you had your choice between spending $10 on a digital record or $10 on a CD, which you could practically have both then.
Yeah, because once you rip it, you mean?
Or even some like a great company like Amazon gives you auto rip.
Yeah.
So you have the best of both worlds. You could listen to the record while it's coming to you in the mail.
Yeah.
You can't beat that.
You could actually get bored of it before you get it.
And a lot of bands that I buy from Bandcamp do the same thing. If you buy a CD from the band, then you get a free download while you're waiting for your CD to come. It's to me, so it's a win-win.
The bottom line is when I'm a kid and I have 3 albums, do I really care about an MP3 player and carrying around? And was I really carrying around? No, we were carrying on boom boxes back then. And it was on cassette.
Right.
Cassette you have to rewind. 8-track you can't rewind. And
stop living in the past, man.
I know, I can't help it. And vinyl,
we all are.
And vinyl, you want to move to the next track, you got to find that, the in between the tracks, and it's just convenient.
I went through that phase for a bit. I bought a few vinyls, and it gets expensive because I still wanted the CD. Some of them come with CDs, but it's just in a little slipcase. So, the 180 grams sounded great. It was fun for a little while. Some of them even had colored vinyl, which was a cool little extra. But always go back to CDs.
Yeah, look, we grew up listening to cassettes, right? Vinyl. We grew up listening to that. new stuff comes in. You can't fight City Hall. You can't.
I know.
You just got to roll with technology and enjoy it, embrace it. I mean, look, it is what it is.
Yep, I agree. Next up is Julia from Newcastle, Indiana. She wrote in, which sounds like she was venting. She's a big fan of your show, of our show, I'm sorry, but my opinion on Van Halen is David Lee Roth blows away Sammy Hagar in every aspect except the fact that Sammy plays guitar. Good. We like to hear different opinions. We always like when, as Dom said earlier, we love when you guys write in and disagree or give different points. What do you think of that statement, Dom?
You know what? I told you I picked Sammy Hagar 51-50. So by saying that she likes Roth, I could 100% easily understand where she's coming from. Roth is got his own little place in history, and rightfully so. But you know what? I'm not gonna say I agree with her, but I understand exactly. I wouldn't say blows away Sammy Hagar though. I just don't think that that he actually blows away Sammy Hagar. That to me, he blows away Gary Sharon in Van Halen. Okay, but I don't think he blows away Sammy Hagar.
This funny thing is, and I'm obviously my opinion, but I think if you listen deeply, Sharon was technically the better singer of all three of them on a vocal level.
Yeah.
On a vocal level, he was the best of the three of them. As far as a fit, you're always going to have your purists. And I somewhat agree, but I won't get into that again because obviously everybody knows I chose the fact that as long as Eddie's there, I'm good.
Yeah. Stu is probably still not over the
That's
fact
why
that you played
that was a nod to Stu. We haven't forgot about you, Stu.
No.
But back to Julia. Yeah, it's a tough one. And I'm glad she wrote in her strong opinion on that. But yeah, I mean, I could see. I don't know about blowing away. Also, Roth in his prime was phenomenal. He was a really good singer. Hagar had a very different type of voice. He probably had more range. He's definitely a better songwriter than Roth was.
Is he a better guitar player?
Yeah, yeah. I'm not even sure. Like as much as I love Eat 'Em and Smile and Skyscraper, I'm not really sure how much he wrote of those songs either, or how much input, because you'll never know. He brought Vi and Sheehan in there and Greg Bissonette as paid hired guns. So if he's paying them, no matter what, they're gonna do what he says. It's the bottom line. So his name may have been on those songs, but who knows if he actually wrote any of those songs.
We're just getting back to Gary Sharon though. Van Halen 3 musically was a good album, but it wasn't great. Some of those songs were a little too long.
The songs themselves suffered, I think. I think Eddie was in an experimental phase.
And so I kind of feel like Gary Sharon's getting the bad rap. But that's really not addressing Julia from Newcastle, Indiana. Right. But you're right. I mean, I really think that when it comes down to it, Gary Sharon is technically a better vocalist.
You know how I feel about Sharon. I'm an enormous Extreme fan. So
are you wholehearted?
I am very wholehearted.
So thank you, Julia. Peter from Ocala, Florida, wrote, and I quote, I too enjoy a good vocalist and looked up DC Cooper after hearing you both speak of him recently. His solo album is tremendous, as well as his work with Final Force and Royal Hunt. Thank you for exposing me to DC. Well, Peter, thank you for writing in. And to tell you the truth, this is what we want to do. Mike more so than I do, listens to a lot of bands a lot of non-mainstream bands.
Too many.
Too many. And too many because it hits your wallet.
Yes.
So,
gotta support the music to keep it alive, right?
Absolutely. And you know what? If we could, expose singers, vocalists, bands, artists, and that's what our whole Artists of the Podcast is really geared towards. But if we could expose people to different singers and get more and more people listening to them, then that's really what we want to do. While I listen to a lot of mainstream music and sometimes I get stuck in the rut where I can't get out of it, and next thing you know, I'll throw on satellite radio or something to just say like I need to listen to something different. It's nice experimenting, I guess, and listening to new artists and just seeing really what else is out there. So
that's one of my main objectives of me being on the podcast here, is to try, like as you said, to do that. But I think anyone that I myself or you or both of us have ever exposed to DC Cooper always ends up saying the same thing. Thank you.
Well,
because
for DC Cooper.
for exposing them to DC or Royal Hunt.
Yeah, I mean, I just listened to one of their albums on the way home from Chicago. It was just absolutely.
I think some people will find it a bit cheesy.
What?
The music, because it's very bombastic or pop rock a little bit with the keyboards and stuff. I mean, from an outsider's perspective,
Yanni meets metal.
yeah, with a hint of classical in there for sure. But I mean, to me, you listen to his vocals. The music is still great. The songs are great. You could sing along to them. He's an underrated vocalist. They're an underrated band. I prefer the Royal Hunt stuff over the Silent Force stuff, but even the Silent Force stuff was more straightforward. And I think for the first few records there, the Silent Force came right after he did his rehearsal for Priest. So he was trying to hit some high notes where his vocals were changing, a little more aggressive on Silent Force stuff than he was on Royal Hunt.
Well, I think Silent Force is a little heavier. It's heavier.
Yeah.
It's heavier than
more straightforward too. Less keyboards.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say it. Less keyboards.
Less pomp.
Andre Anderson, great keyboard player. But Royal Hunt is better with DC, and DC is better with Royal Hunt. You know what I'm saying? It's just a great match. It's a great match, and I'm glad he's back. You know how I felt about about DC not being there.
I think he's recording. Apparently, he's recording another solo record, which is very exciting because his first and only that he's done is phenomenal. And I know one of your favorites, but
1999, one of the
so
great.
Peter, look out for that.
That album actually came out in 1999, and that
Yikes.
was that. You know what came out that same year?
Scenes from a Memory.
Yes, and I know you didn't have a hard time picking that Scenes from a Memory.
No way.
I just because of the vocals on the DC's solo album, but they were both tremendous albums, and you know what? We got spoiled that year.
We sure did.
Those two albums were great.
There's probably more than that too. Who knows? But Scenes from Memory doesn't make a difference.
Exactly.
It's not even a close second for me. Next up is Gar from Staten Island.
Now wait, before you get started, this is actually the second time he's writing in.
Good old Gar.
This is going to be one of those when you listen to like sports radio, and you got these callers who call in every day or like every other day. This is Gar.
Don't ever stop, Gar.
No, we want to hear from everybody. I don't care how many times you write in. Just keep writing in. But Gar is going to be one of those guys who calls every day at when I'm brushing my teeth at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I'm listening to this this one guy who calls in like every day. He must just probably working or on his way home, whatever it is, and he calls every day. And this is Gar. So Gar, thank you for writing in. I don't even know what you're going to ask, but Gar. So Mike, take it away, and we'll hear.
Good old Gar. Gar writes in, who is going to care about today's music in 10, 20, or 50 years from now? And who cares about the music from decades ago, except what we are constantly reminded as, quote unquote, the classics? It's a great question.
Gar, you really went deep there.
He's very deep, Gar.
Yeah, he is.
Normally.
You know something? That's good. It's a good question. Who's going to care about music 10, 20, 50 years from now?
You don't think people are going to care about 21 or 25 by Adele in 20 years? Because I think they will.
They absolutely will. Absolutely. I guess the people who are going to care about music are the people, I guess, who are alive. I'm not
sure.
50,
Yeah.
50. But, it's like when your parents growing up, right?
I was just going to say that.
Right? You have the doo-wop, you have your Elvis, you have your Frank Sinatra, you have that generation of music. Do I care about that music? Absolutely, because I'm a music fan. So I do care about that music. But
people will argue that's classic, as he said, which is a great point too.
I guess it's a classic when it's old.
It's classics, yeah. Those are classics. So you almost feel like you have to listen to those.
Guns N' Roses is on classic rock now.
So I know. So is Bon Jovi, Metallica.
Exactly. So that's classic. Those are the classics. So whoever's, I guess, it's like Gar. I don't know how old you are, Gar, but you know what? When 20 years from now, you're going to be listening to the music that you grew up listening to. You're not going to change, and you're going to.
What's 20 years from now? I'm sorry. What was 20 years ago? 96.
96. Yeah.
All right. So I'm still listening to albums that I bought in 1996.
I'm listening to albums that I listened to in the 70s.
Well, I was going to say, to your point about the parents too. Do you think in 1980, when my mother was blasting Barry Manilow on her huge console record player, that I thought to myself in 2016 that I would be listening to Barry Manilow? Never in a million years, but I am.
Well, because you don't think about that.
Right. But that's why his question is deep, because now it's something to think about. But so now I'm saying it, I guess we're basically telling him, yeah, I think people are going to care
the people. I guess the people growing up and listen to the music today are going to care about the music. You know, it's like who's going to care about today's music is everyday's music, even yesterday.
Right.
Okay, so you know, our music was today's music at one time, and now it's classics.
But in the end of his question, too, will the stuff from today in 10 or 20 years, forget 50, be considered classic at that time?
They will.
Are they going to hear Rolling in the Deep and say, wow, that's classic, and that'll be on some classic rock channel at the time, or, like a CBS type of channel?
If Adele never made another record, you know that's going to be a classic.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Even I think there's going to be people who are Taylor Swift fans now who are going to still be listening to Taylor Swift in 20 years from now.
And that
she has her strong followers.
That's almost a segue into, is music dead?
Yeah, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So we could touch on that a little bit more. But I believe, Gar, and you know what, Gar, this is your second time writing in, so you know what? We want to see a third and a fourth. So
keep them coming.
Yeah.
Good old Gar.
That's a good question. And, hit us with some more questions. I'm going to let you take this one.
You sure?
Yeah, you know what? Actually,
you got it.
You want me to read it?
Go for it.
Janie from New York. And
we love you, Janie.
Yeah, well, you know why. And she could be our biggest fan. To tell you the truth, she could be our biggest fan. She enjoys the show, and she is definitely a faithful follower. She did write in a whole big, huge email, and you know what? Thank you for that, Jane.
Much appreciated.
Yes, exactly. And one of her questions was, would you ever consider doing a topic regarding darker metal, gothic versus more mainstream accepted metal? Before we answer that question, she did throw in a P.S. I am a huge Dream Theater and Queensryche fan as well.
Me too.
And so am I. So, Janie, yes, I think you are our biggest fan, although Gar did write in twice, so you're going to have to write in and beat him out. But you know what? Dream Theater, and we actually have a question for Janie, since she is a fan of the show. Janie, which album do you like better? And the reason why I picked these two albums, because I think, although I love Awake, and Awake was probably the first album that I ever heard from Dream Theater, but Images and Words or Scenes from a Memory, which album do you like better? And that's a question for Janie and everybody else out there.
Any Dream Theater fan could write into us.
I think those,
that's a toughie.
Right, and I think those, if you had to compare two albums, what two albums would you pick in a question of like which one do you like better?
Yeah, for sure. Those of course those would be the two.
Right, Images and Words?
For me?
No, I'm saying or Scenes from a Memory. Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
Although Awake to me is tremendous.
You're talking to a person who likes it all, dude. So I mean, there's some obviously are better than others, but there hasn't been even Falling into Infinity that I didn't love when it came out. In hindsight, now after all the years, after they got back on track, I love it. I still love it. So
I've loved that album since a little bit more commercial.
When it first came out, I hated it.
I know you did.
A handful of songs I liked.
I know why you did.
It was commercial.
No, well, a little bit. But I think
Kevin Moore was
exactly.
gone.
Kevin Moore was gone, and you
broke my heart.
You were really upset. You were bummed, like someone you just lost your dog.
I was only 22.
It doesn't matter.
No, I don't even know what year that came out. 96, maybe.
That came out in 96, 97.
Yeah,
and I think actually 97.
Possibly
97.
Yeah.
And you walked around like someone stole your dog. I said, "Come on, get over it." Kevin Moore's gone. Derek Sherinian's in. Accept him, and it was a tremendous record. Come on.
I wouldn't use the word tremendous. It was a very good record. And even in hindsight, yes, it was a very good record.
I guess if you're going to say that Scenes from a Memory is tremendous, then you would not use tremendous for...
I don't use the word tremendous for Scenes from Memory. I would use the word masterpiece.
So then you could say then...
No, because I would say 6 Degrees of Inner Turbulence is tremendous.
Yes, that is.
So is Awake.
Yes, all right.
And on and on.
Yes, all right. So I would not put... No, definitely...
Back to Janie, Dom. Let's look. You throw me off by talking about Dream Theater.
Exactly. So you know what? Yes. Would you ever consider doing a topic regarding darker metal, gothic versus more mainstream accepted metal? Mike, I'm going to let you take this. I'm not really a big gothic.
Yeah, I'm not either. I mean, darker metal. Yes, I could probably handle some death metal and heavier metal. Gothic, I wouldn't consider myself a huge. Obviously, we could look into it. But I could definitely do one on darker metal, but I think it would leave you in the dark, Dom, because you're not really into that style of rock or metal.
I think the heaviest metal album I have is Iced Earth.
Right.
I think that's probably the
Some
heaviest.
people would consider that slightly goth, maybe. I don't know. But to me, Iced Earth is just heavy metal. But
Yeah, well, I'm saying that's the heaviest I have. So
Right,
as far
right.
as gothic, you know what I mean? I couldn't really, I don't go there. I just cannot. As much as death metal, I like the actual music part of it. And I can't get into the vocals, and I just can't sit there listening to somebody growling in the microphone. I might as well just listen to a dog.
Right. Yeah. Well, it took a while for me too, but I think my gateway to the heavier stuff was probably Pantera. Obviously, one of the greatest. But yeah, I think I mean I can touch on a darker metal in an episode down the road, possibly. You know, a little heavier stuff for sure.
I'll listen to it. You know, I'm always, and especially now we're doing the show, I'm always more inclined to listen to stuff that I've never listened to before.
Right.
What's the worst that can happen? I just shut it off. Turn
Yeah.
the channel.
The music's great. A lot of the stuff, the music is really, really great. It's just, you know, for a lot of the people, it's the vocals. But then again, it's the same thing with Dream Theater. A lot of people don't like LaBrie's vocals. Rush, people didn't like Geddy Lee's vocals. Or Yes, you know, I mean.
Rush. We can talk about Rush another day because that's just.
Don't get me started with Rush either.
It took me a little
faves.
while. It took me a little while to. I'm not even going to tell you where Rush is in my list of bands because I don't want to ruin anything. But because when we cover that subject, you know, but it took me a little while to really get used to Geddy Lee's voice in some songs. Other songs it was fine, you know, but other songs it was just like. But now, I'm sold. Rush,
Yeah, wow.
I mean, Rush is just absolutely more than tremendous.
Legendary.
Beyond legendary,
Yeah,
iconic.
I agree.
I don't even know if there's a word.
But and the funny thing is, people may listen in and say, "Oh, you know, you're just saying that because they've kind of got a big rush in popularity."
No,
See that word I used
no
there?
pun intended.
None at all. I mean, I've been listening to Rush since I got into rock and metal, so I've always kind of felt that, especially once I landed on their classic records, which for me may be a little bit different than for others, but you know, mid 70s, like the mid to late 70s period Rush. But that's for another topic, I guess, for another time.
Well, that's pretty. That was a pretty.
Thank you, Janie.
Yes, Janie. Thank you very much for writing in. Your moot point was definitely extended a lot longer. We had a lot of people write in. That was great. That was really good. I enjoyed that. I enjoy these questions. I enjoy these opinions, comments, anything. It's really great to see. You got Michael, Frank, Steve, Julia, Peter, Gar, and Janie. All of you, thank you for writing in. We appreciate your listening to us. And
you will be
supporting.
heard.
Yes.
Write in. You will be heard. We will do more. We'll do more. If the more people write in, we'll do more podcasts like this where we'll touch on your answers and your questions for sure.
So, Mike, why don't you take us out? The two trivias. Let's see.
Trivia time already, huh?
Get ready to test your musical knowledge.
Okay. Number 1. Who invented the phonograph and what year?
Was that Kermit the Frog?
Could be.
Oh, no,
Kermit.
that was the What's Happened Next machine. Did you ever see that?
I probably did.
You had to see
I
that
had
on
to have
Sesame
seen it.
Street.
I mean,
That was the
I
What Happens
was
Next. If you get a chance, this is definitely a little off topic.
Probably on
sidebar.
YouTube.
It's definitely on. I saw it. I showed my kids. Look up Kermit the Frog. What Happens Next machine? It's kind
Kermit
of funny.
D. Frog.
Kermit D. Frog. Yeah, D-E.
Number 2. What does EP stand for when referring to music recording, and what is it?
I like that question. And we'll explain why I like that question because I've learned. I know what the answer is, and I've learned what it was long time ago, and I still don't know if it makes sense, but we'll
We'll get there.
Janie from New York, you know what? You got us going here now with the fact that you're a huge Dream Theater and Queensryche fan, and since we are too, I think we need to build off of that question. And
You did throw that question out to her, so I mean, you did start it, Tom. It's your fault.
well, I started the question
Well,
of
she was the antagonist, but
which is a good thing.
yes, very good.
She
thing.
started a very, very good topic.
Yeah.
And since we are both big Dream Theater and Queensryche fans, I think we should talk about it.
I'm always ready. You know that.
So I guess because D comes before Q, let's talk about Dream Theater first. Now, I have to say, I've heard of Dream Theater before I've actually listened to them. You know, back, I would say I started listening to them in 1996. And I've always heard people talk, did you ever hear of Dream Theater? And I was like, yeah, I've heard of them.
You were late to the party.
I was really late to the party. But you know what, though? At least I showed up.
True.
Because...
And a good time, too.
Yeah.
Well, a little turbulent, but...
my first album was Awake and Images and Words. Those are my first two albums. And to tell you the truth, I just couldn't get enough.
Where'd you get those from?
I don't know. Wherever. I don't know. Probably The Wiz.
Nobody beats The Wiz.
Nobody. Well,
apparently someone did.
yeah. So you're right there. Don't hyperventilate. So, Mike, my question to you is: talk to me about Dream Theater. What is your favorite album?
Everyone.
You have to listen.
I know.
Do me a favor.
Images and Words. Images and Words. It's not that difficult.
Wow, I'm
Scenes from a
surprised.
Memory is. I hate to even call it a close second because it's closer than that. But Images and Words is my very favorite. It's really what I did have When Dreaming Day Unite on cassette. That's the album that got me into Dream Theater, that exposed me to them. But it wasn't until Images and Words came out that they smacked me in the face with what I never heard in my life, what they were doing on that record. You know, even though some people played it off as saying that it sounded very 80s, and I remember reading reviews that said they sounded like TNT. And
How can that sound like it was heavy? It had balls and chunk. I mean, it was.
yeah, but it also had, you know, I don't think TNT ever had a song longer than 5 or 6 minutes. So they went, yeah, I mean, maybe with Labrie there, it had a little bit of some of that European type sound to it, you know, with the operatic vocals or whatever you want to call it. But they took the musicians, and the songwriting was taken to another level. And they look back at Images and Words. I hope they look back at it with tremendous fondness, because the diehard Dream Theater fans know what time it is with the Images and Words. It's their finest. It's debatable what their finest hour is, and that's what's so.
The subject is moot.
Yeah, it really is on this one. But every song, still to this day, I could still listen to every song from front to back. And probably 20, this is for you, Gar, 10 and 20 and 50 years from now, if I'm still alive, I'll still be listening to Images and Words. And that's a fact. And Scenes from Memory.
You know what's funny? I just actually pictured my grandfather being like a Dream Theater fan.
I've done that many, many times.
Right? And I picture my grandfather, who, you know, God rest his soul, one of the greatest men that I've ever known. Funny as all hell, too.
He was.
But I don't want to give away any of his secrets, but he was very, very comical. And but I can't, like, I just try, and I see myself as like this 80-year-old man listening to Pull Me Under.
I was going to say, picture this, you walking into his house to visit him, and he's blasting Pull Me Under and singing it.
Or I walk into your house and you're sitting there playing air guitar because you can't hold the guitar anymore.
True. It will be happening.
At 85 years old.
I promise you that.
You know, and the arthritis in your fingers and you just can't play.
Of the hundreds and hundreds of bands and artists I listen to, I will definitely tell you Dream Theater will be one of those bands that if I could still hear.
I was just going to say, it would have to be really loud.
No. You know, along with Satriani and Vi and Enchant and Queensryche and some of those other bands, a lot of Rush, obviously, and so on and so forth. Dream Theater will be one of those bands. And Images and Words will always be top of my list. I love Scenes from Memory. Don't get me wrong.
And that's what surprised me, because I know how much you love Scenes from Memory. And the best is, every time I say, did you listen to like track 6 or whatever? No, I can't listen. I need to listen to the album from the beginning to the end. First of all, I don't have that kind of time. That's well over an hour CD. And I don't have that kind of time to.
I believe it's 78 minutes and 56 seconds.
It could be. It could be. But I used to know how long it was. I just haven't listened to it in a while, because it's one of those things where now, when I go back and listen to it, now that it's been it's been actually a pretty good while that I've actually listened to Scenes from a Memory. If I do go back and listen to it, I can't just put on Home, or anything else.
Sweet Dance of Eternity.
Exactly. I have to listen to it from the beginning. And that album is a headphone listen.
Well, it's either a headphone listen or everybody's out of the house and you could put it on
Loud.
so you could really enjoy it.
Headphone listen. I want to be able to hear a pin
I
drop
agree.
in there. I mean, I told you I like listening to movies with headphones. Forget your surround sound. Forget your surround sound and on all that 5.1, 7.1 Dolby digital stuff. Give me headphones.
Well, you and I also listen to music very differently too, because I never could listen to just a song. I still, to this day, am an album listener where you could kind of mix. You don't mind mixing it up.
I don't mind
can't.
mixing because I don't have that time. I don't have because if that would be the case, then what am I going to listen to? Singles?
Well, nowadays, I don't have the time either, but I'll listen to half, like, especially lately with that Astonishing record. I have to listen to side one in one sitting and then go back to the second side and side two, which is a topic for another time, probably.
So I guess your answer is images and words, and that's my answer too. That's my answer with a very close second of scenes from a memory, and I'm not surprised that I picked that because I know how much I love Awake. But those three, and then I'm not going to pick Dancing with a Dancing. No, I'm sorry, not Dancing.
6 Degrees?
No, what was it? Falling into.
Falling to Infinity.
Yeah. I'm not going to pick that as my fourth album. I'm not, but
that's still my least favorite.
I could see why, but you know what? The other ones, absolutely true.
You fell off for a while.
I didn't fall off. Absolutely not. It's just the concept album, which was their first concept album, right?
Scenes from Memory.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm saying Dream Theater's first concept album because now they have the second one. You got to like concept albums. You have to.
Well, it's the story.
Yeah, exactly. You have to like that, and the other albums, though, they kept going. Some of the songs are just a little too long, a little too. It's hard for me to describe, but as I'm not as big a Dream Theater fan as you, and I'm a very big Dream Theater fan. I would say the highlight of my musical, not career, but my musical catalog or whatever it is of concerts and everything was one of my favorites. Although Iron Maiden was my favorite. The time we saw Dream Theater at Roseland. Not Roseland.
Still the best show I've ever seen in my entire
right?
life. Yep.
Yeah, that was Roseland.
August 30th, 2000.
And that's when they recorded. They recorded that. We were there that night. They recorded it.
I believe it was August 30th.
You could hear me clapping.
You could hear me whistling.
So, yes.
And screaming, I love you, John Petrucci.
John Mayung is tremendous.
Don't get me started, please. Do not get me started on this topic.
I could watch that guy all day long.
Do not get me started on the topic of Dream Theater.
So, Janie, let's hear your the answer to your. I guess to the question is, which album do you like best,
and why?
Yes, and I posed that question before with I guess images and words, or scenes from a memory. Getting on to Queensryche.
It's easy. As much as I love everything they've done up until Promised Land, it's an extremely easy answer. Operation My Crime.
No question.
It's one of the greatest albums in music, in my opinion, in the history of rock and metal and music, period. That's how I feel about that record.
I'm going to tell you this right now. For the record, if somebody was going to ask me, what is my absolute favorite album of all time? It's got to be one or two. It's Operation Mindcrime has to be either one or two, and I'm probably going to just pick one.
What about the Sesame Street album? One or two.
That's number two.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's my number one. There's too many number ones in my catalog, but
well, that's the thing. I mean, if you have to pick one, and I know you're gonna have 1A, 1B, and 1C. I know that.
And D and E and
exactly.
the whole alphabet.
Exactly. So that's why there's 26 letters in the alphabet. But I know that you have to pick one. So if I had to pick one, it's gonna be that one.
It's a good one to pick.
Only because I have to pick one. And it could be images and words.
There's not a weak song on the album.
No.
And even the little interludes in between are interesting to the ear. Where I think when I first got it, when I first got into Queensryche was just before Empire was released. So obviously Mindcrime was out and I bought it. I didn't understand it then. I was too young. I wasn't as deep into music as I am now, obviously. So I kind of skipped around a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I skipped around. I was like, "What are these interludes? What is this? What a concept album?" I had no concept of what a concept album was. So, but it wasn't long until I started listening to track 1 through how many tracks are on there. I forgot. I used to know. I could recite them all probably years ago, but
that's what happens when you get older.
Yeah, I don't want to admit that.
Unfortunately.
But yeah, I mean, now and for years and years and years, it didn't take me long until I appreciated it from start to finish and the whole story and how great it was. Even the song Sweet Sister Mary was like 10 and change.
Yeah.
For me, that was very long because when Dreaming Day Unite didn't really have long songs on it. So obviously, listening to Mindcrime, hearing a song that's 10 minutes, you had to hang in there if you weren't used to it. And I wasn't at the time yet. Because even Rush, as I got into Rush, their 90s records didn't have long songs either yet. Their longest songs in the 90s, in the late 80s, early 90s, were like 6-7 minutes at the most. So a 10-minute song was a bit of a stretch at the time. But it's one of my favorite songs on the album.
That's one of them, and my ultimate favorite is Eyes of a Stranger.
Eyes of a Stranger is probably one of my favorite songs of all time.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. But the album, to me, it's another one I will not listen to halfway through or a track here and there. It's front
hard.
to back.
It's hard, and I've done that. I've done it. No question. I've done it. That's one of the albums that you want to pick up and just start from beginning to end and just soak
just
it
like
all
scenes,
up.
just like images and words.
Exactly. Soak it all up. Soak it all up. But yeah, so there you have it. Images and Words and Operation Mindcrime.
Yep. As much as it's tough to say that, well, it's not so. It's tougher for me to say to pick a Dream Theater album than it is a Queensrÿche album.
Yeah.
But I do love Empire.
All right. Well, time for the artist of the podcast, which is brought to you by Vintage Vinyl Records, New Jersey legendary independent record store since 1979.
Double V.
Located at 51 Lafayette Road in Fords, New Jersey. Also check out their website at vvinyl.com.
You will not be disappointed. Great people, great store.
All right, Mike. You know what? I'm going to go first. I'm going to try and make it quick, which is going to be very, very tough. This is my long-winded part of the show.
Let me get my nap pillow.
Is it my pillow?
No, I don't. I'm not.
I don't want you using my pillow.
No, I will not use your pillow.
Okay.
Wait, you mean yours? My pillow or your pillow?
No, my pillow.
Oh, okay. Personal.
My pick, artist of the podcast, is Randy McStein. Okay, and when I describe him, I don't even know if I could use the word talented. The guy is absolutely tremendous. Tremazing. He's tremazing.
That's a good word.
It really is. He is tremendous. He's a tremendous talent. Okay, he's a guitarist, singer, songwriter. He's been playing guitar since the age of 5, performing in public, I guess since the age of 10. Inspired by his dad's music collection, he then grew up listening to bands and guitarists like Yes, King's X, Sabotage, Eric Johnson, Joe Satriani, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Gary Moore, and many others.
A lot of my favorites.
Exactly. Randy has a tremendously extensive background. As a young guitarist, he recorded 3 albums. Shredding Skin, which I believe it was from 2000. 2000, I think. Second Shot, 2002. Guitarism from 2005. He's toured with the Pink Floyd Experience on lead vocals and co-guitars, as well as playing guitar for The Sound of Contact.
Another great record.
Randy created Lo-Fi Resistance in 2009. Lo-Fi Resistance has 3 albums, A Deep Breath in 2010, Chalk Lines in 2011, and Age of Entitlement, which I love that name. I love that title. Age of Entitlement from 2014. His recent project is The Fringe, 2016 self-titled CD. The Fringe features Randy on guitars and vocals, Jonas Reingold, bass and backing vocals.
Great bass player, by the way.
Tremendous, absolutely. Nick DiVirgilio.
Another great drummer.
Yep, drums and vocals. You could check out their video on YouTube off of the Fringe album. The track is called A Second or Two. And that, in fact, will be our outro of today's podcast. So definitely stay tuned. Treat yourself to Randy McStein. You can Google him, see his catalog. I mean, he's all over the place. He really is an absolute tremendous talent. I can't get enough, and I'm glad I discovered him. I didn't discover him, but I'm glad I found out who he was. So
you should look into the musicians who play on the Fringe record too. They have a lot of good bands.
Oh yeah, no, I have, and you know something? This is a treat right here. Really is. Tremendous album, tremendous talent. Thank you very much, Randy.
You mean Tremazing?
Tremazing. Mike, your turn. Was that short enough for you? I mean, I think I went pretty quick.
I started to doze a little bit, but not too bad.
I didn't even take a breath.
It was pretty good. I'm going to go with a Christmas favorite, since it is Christmas time. Is that wrong to say Christmas? It's okay, right?
I can say it. It's our show. We could say it, right?
True, yes.
What about a Festivus?
Festivus for the rest of us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Since it's Christmas time, you want to talk about Tremazing. In my opinion, the essential Christmas artist.
You almost snapped your neck there.
I know. Well, that's how I feel about him. Percy Faith. You may all laugh out there if you look into him and listen to what Percy Faith's music sounds like. But growing up listening to traditional Christmas music from the 50s and 60s, this stuck into my head, and it's still there today. Percy Faith's a Canadian band leader, orchestrator, composer, conductor, kind of known for popularizing easy listening or mood music genre. Started back in the 50s. I think he's Canadian, another great Canadian artist. His music is very lush, great arrangements. It's just the most beautiful Christmas music I have ever heard. And I like a lot. I have an extensive collection of old Christmas music as well, but it is my absolute personal favorite. Mostly instrumental, big orchestra. Sometimes there's light vocals in there. There were 3 separate Christmas albums: Music of Christmas, or Music of Christmas Volume 1, Music of Christmas Volume 2, or also known as Hallelujah, and there was Christmas Is. All 3 are worth getting. Look into them if you like Christmas music, if you like it easy and light, especially if you like it lush and sweeping orchestras, just the best. I think Sony put a collection out called The Complete Music of Christmas in 2012 by Percy Faith, but it wasn't complete because it didn't have Christmases on there. And if you want it complete, get all 3. You will not be sorry. He was also very famous for a theme from A Summer Place, which I think was a movie from the late 60s. And if people hear it, they'll definitely know that song. But it's Christmas time, and you want to hear something great, check him out. Check all 3 of those records out.
All right. Well, there you have it. Those are our picks. Trivia question answers. Who invented the phonograph and what year? Thomas Edison.
Thomas Alva Edison.
1877.
It was a good year.
It was a
good
great
year.
That was a great year for me. What does EP stand for when referring to music recording, and what is it? Well, the abbreviation EP is extended play, and it contains more tracks than a single, but not enough to be called an album or LP, which stands for long play. Which, like I said before, it was a little confusing because you would think extended play is a full album, but it's not. So
it always confused me, but I kind of, it's still kind of, it's a head scratcher, but
yeah, I wonder what that was all about. I guess when, I guess if that's what you called it when it first came out, then it stuck, whatever. There's got to be a reason for it.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it's actually it's pretty interesting. So the extended play is basically, it contains more than a single. So basically I would say 2 through maybe 5. 2 to 5, 2 to 6.
I think maybe it depends on the length,
Yeah.
not so much the amount of songs, because.
Well, they said over here it's tracks, right? It says, contains more tracks than a single.
Right.
So, but that's it. That's the answer. You know what that means? It's time to land the plane. We want to hear from you. So write in your opinion, comments, topics you want us to talk about to the subjectismoot@yahoo.com, and we will bring them up during future shows.
Your question may be a topic of a whole show.
Absolutely. Don't forget, coming up next, our outro song, which is Randy McStein's song. Looking forward to it. A second or two. Check it out. For now, I am Dom, and across from me is
Mike, and we are out.
Of a lover based on what I could see. Didn't have time for another, no guarantee. Couldn't just wait for a minute, slow down and take a seat. Everything reaches a limit. Rhyming is easy if you concentrate.